Joined by Danielle Baker in just a second. Don't forget, it's one of those months where if you want to support my work and you have been considering switching your investments, your IRA or your 401k over to a gold or precious metals based IRA, this is the month to do it and support my work at the same time. You can go to morrowgold.com and also call 877-646-5347 and help me get a babysitter. Here, can you hold this for a second for me? Help me get a babysitter, everyone. morrowgold.com, 877-646-5347, and ask every question you've ever had about a precious metal IRA or 401k. What does it cost to sign up? What does it cost to maintain? What does it cost to withdraw? We have a lot of concerns these days over the US dollar. What's going to happen with food prices, stock market, housing market. But you know what? You don't even need to bring your concerns. You just need to bring your support for Allison Morrow and the interview that you're going to see today, because without sponsors who are willing to let us talk about these issues and people who are also willing to come on and talk with me while I have a 3-year-old on my lap, none of this would be possible. So help me keep in business, keep interviews like Danielle coming on. And again, help me find a new babysitter in Florida and better internet. There's so many reasons. I could list a plethora of reasons to go to morrowgold.com right now. Or call 877-646-5347. It has nothing to do with investing and has everything to do with just helping me stay sane. So if you're a fan of Allison Morrow, if you're a fan of the producer right here, if you're a fan of Danielle Baker, if you're just a fan of truth and you don't like censorship, it would be very difficult for me to do these without the support of both my subscribers over on, say, Locals, for instance, and ROKFIN and Patreon, but also my sponsors. And thank you to sponsors who are willing to let us have these conversations. You can say hi. Go ahead and say hi to everybody. Actually, what I really need you to say is, this is not financial advice. Can you say this is not financial advice? This is not financial advice. There's always a risk when investing, and there are no guarantees of any kind. Can you say that? No. Okay, I didn't think so. All right, so thanks, everybody. Okay, you can say it.
Mommy.
Okay, there's Danielle. Danielle, what do you think of the intro? Are you scared already to come on the channel?
I am home.
You're home, awesome. Okay. All right. We, not that I ever really need a reason to be late, because I'm pretty much late to everything anyway. Yep. But we were a little late because you were dealing with some of the condition that you've had over the last year or so since getting the Pfizer vaccine. Can you describe what was going on?
I have an issue called dysreflexia. My body likes to pour out a bunch of responses to stimuli. A lot of times it causes my blood pressure to shoot up and a bunch of other things. I, at this time, was having an attack where my muscles like to lock up, and I have a severe autonomic response where I sweat profusely, and I just have a lot of issues with those body functions that normally take care of themselves. I can't adjust correctly. So it's like a hormone dump, for lack of better words.
I wanted to just show people, before we go any further, where they can go to follow you, because you're very active on Twitter. So you can go to the Coerced Nurse and follow Danielle there. Danielle, how much of this condition that you're dealing with did you have a couple years ago, before all this happened, before the shot was rolled out? Did you have issues before this?
Nothing. I was actually at the healthiest that I had been. I had met my now husband, and we were always active, hiking, primitive camping. I had dealt with high blood pressure prior to a lot of weight loss, but that really was the only chronic issue that I had dealt with, and that was controlled.
I'm here. Hang on. Sorry, my internet's a little glitchy right now. Okay, so you file. I wanted to let everybody know we're going to go into this in depth, but we're going to do that once we progress onto the other platforms. And we're not doing this to evade censorship. We are just doing this because we like the other platforms better. So if you would like to see everything, the links are in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, suggest moving over to one of those platforms now, if you have the ability to do so. Danielle, I want to fast forward to the VAERS report that you filed on your own behalf, right? You said nobody filed the VAERS report. Can you first talk about why didn't anybody file a VAERS report that, you know, either the person who administered the shot to you or anybody else? Why'd you have to do it yourself? And then what happened to it?
I wish I had the answer as to why nobody filed. I have my guesses as to why. I was hospitalized, and after I received my diagnosis, I actually had found the VAERS system. Having had been a nurse for 20 years, it wasn't something I was even familiar with. I've not had to access it or utilize it. So I found out what it was because of my injury. I went in and looked at what needed to be submitted to VAERS for a report, and that's when I found all the information that was needed, like my lot number and such, to file. Nobody had asked me that information, so right away I figured that it hadn't been submitted. So when I got out, I went ahead and went into the system and filed a report about my diagnosis, transverse myelitis. The doctors in the imaging had supported the relationship between the shot and my condition, and I knew that the authorization for the Pfizer was going to be granted pretty soon after my injury, and I wanted to try to maybe halt that process because something wasn't right. And that's why I initially went in to file.
All right. So you also notified the FDA, right? Am I right remembering this correctly? Okay, so you notify the FDA, and then you see that this report has disappeared. What was your reaction to that? Because I know you still don't really quite know exactly what happened, but there's a question as to, like, was this just a glitch? I mean, you knew it was there, right? You saw that it had been there. So
yeah,
what happened?
I knew I had filed. I was careful to file how it needed to be because I understand the importance of that accuracy. I was so desperate to get anybody to hear me. Immediately after filing my VAERS, I filed a report with the FDA and MedWatch. I didn't hear any follow up on either. And about a year later, I was cued to go back and look for my report and ensure that it was in whole and still there. And that's where I found out that it was completely gone. It no piece or part was in there. Having that I had a documentable, medically proven reaction, and then I filed to the FDA immediately after. My mind goes to the intentional cover up of my report. I don't see how it can just mysteriously be gone after knowing I took the steps needed for it to be correctly filed.
Let me ask you what your biggest concern with trying to get to the bottom of it. Why not just say, oh, I guess it probably just was a computer glitch, and I'll just redo it and move on, and no harm, no foul. Why be concerned about it? Why spend time on it, on trying to get an answer to that?
Because if mine disappeared and I know that I had the documentation to support the reaction, then how many other people have had the same thing done? I hear all the time that VAERS is overreported, and I find it's the exact opposite. It is underreported, and then we have these instances of these undeniable reactions that just mysteriously happen to find their way out of the system. It's not coincidence, and there's something that is going wrong.
The coerced nurse. Can you explain why you call yourself the coerced nurse, and a little bit about what was going on with your job, with your employer, that led you to choose to get this COVID vaccine?
Absolutely. I had been a hospice nurse for 17 years, and working for the same company. We worked the front lines just as other healthcare workers, and my situation without the proper PPE and everything that was needed. But we showed up every day because we were doing what we were led to do. You don't fall into nursing by accident. And my employer, when they started to talk about vaccine, had told us at that time that they wouldn't ever think about a mandation. And that all changed in April and May of 2021. My a former employer, Ohio's hospice, put out an email stating that they were going to take away some of the benefits and protections provided by the government if we didn't have our shots by July of 2021. It stated in there that the time off due to COVID or a vaccination reaction are covered, but unless we took the vaccination, that would be erased. And we also knew the mandate was coming for our company. In addition, they were doing things like offering up to $20,000 bonus, $5,000 weekly, and all kinds of other coercing things to get people to do what they wanted. And then in July, when people didn't do everything, that's when they mandated it. But I strongly feel that I was coerced into taking it. It wasn't a benefit to me. I didn't want it. It was a benefit to the company.
So you weren't saying, oh, maybe I should do this for protection against COVID. It was purely because you wanted to maintain your job and benefits at work.
I loved my career, and I had a family, and I had already had COVID. I got at work, natural immunity. The unprovenness of the shot scared me. I didn't want it for myself.
You were a hospice nurse. You're unable to work now. You have filed a workers' comp claim against your employer, and you are on disability. Looking back on your decision, would you have done anything differently?
I say it's the 10 minutes that changed my life. It didn't. It took a lot longer than 10 minutes to make the decision, but the 10 minutes it took for me to go in and get a shot, it devastated and decimated my life. I strongly feel that I'm here now because my purpose is greater, but I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. I absolutely would make a different decision if I could.
Danielle, I really appreciate your willingness to talk about all this with the folks who are watching. I think it's really important to keep talking about it. You and I were talking before we went live about, why, because it's not just, I'm sure, difficult to deal with, putting yourself up publicly. I, as somebody who talks to folks regularly about this, I know putting yourself up publicly on this issue comes with it, a level of, publicity and notoriety that not always comes with positive feedback, right? And then also it's just physically hard for you. So thank you for shout out to my editorial board over at Locals. I just wanted to let everybody know that com, as well as Rumble and ROKFIN. If you want to be on my editorial board, you get to ask people like Danielle whatever you want to ask. It's $5 a month to go one-on-one with the most censored people on the internet. So consider doing that. And also, if you're a wine drinker, I don't know if you're a wine drinker. Are you a wine drinker, Danielle?
I used to be.
Another great way to support my work, as everybody knows, is Father's Day. You get your order in, you're going to be late for Dad, but that's okay because he'll have an amazing Malbec for the rest of the months after Father's Day. So he'll feel better that you missed Father's Day and forgot to get him a present on time, because you're going to get him an amazing present that is never going to age poorly. It's a high altitude, extremist altitude Malbec. You get 50% off my wines and 50% off shipping, and you get to drink with a cause, and support my work. Just like I said, these are sponsors who are willing to stick with people like me, who interview folks that a lot of companies would not touch. So it's a great way to keep me in business and to have a great glass of wine while you're doing it. The one in the middle is from the oldest vineyard in Argentina, over 200 years old. And the one on the left is hands down my favorite wine. It's called the Rogue Malbec. It's very good. The one on the right, named after the Cowboys of Argentina. No filtration, natural fermentation. These are wines you cannot get at a grocery store. And why would you want to? Like I said, if you don't like your dad, that's okay too. You probably need a drink. So, in honor of that, Danielle, I get people all the time whenever I read these for Mother's Day and Father's Day. They're like, you make me feel terrible because I hate my mom or I hate my dad. It's like, okay, you know what? Forgive your mom and your dad, and then get the wine for yourself. All right. If you don't like your mom or dad, then there's plenty of other reasons to get the wine. Okay. And let it go. Forgive your parents. Okay. So thanks everybody for watching on YouTube. We're going to continue this elsewhere, and we will see you next time.